Could Raditz still be canonically alive in Dragon Ball?
As we all know, Raditz has been ridiculously underused by the fact that he is the brother of the main character. You don't need me to tell you that Raditz has a major fan base. He had one before I came along and he will have one long after I've retired. Raditz's existence within the Dragon world has sort of been a little bit ambiguous. Most people regarded that in DBZ he was sent straight to Hipple by King Yama and has never been seen again.
Well,
according to a certain article on a website that I really don't like actually going to most of the time, this one regarding the form of Raditz has actually gotten my attention. Do be sure to like the video if you like Raditz. Masako, this is a Screenrant article. Why are you going there? I have actually promised myself not to go to this website ever again because most of the time it tends to be wrong or it tends to be a little bit inflammatory. But come on, this headline here, Dragon Ball GT secretly resurrected Raditz theory explained. I've got to see it because it's my boy. And anything that is actually showing Raditz in a glowing light in terms of articles online, it's really got to be worth a look. I mean, come on. We really want Raditz to exist, and if there's a chance, then we just got to listen. Spencer Connolly says that Dragon Ball GT apparently secretly resurrected Raditz. He has a theory. Raditz was completely wasted in Dragon Ball Z, but that mistake could be rectified in Dragon Ball Super, all thanks to one episode of Dragon Ball GT. Okay, I'm a little bit confused as to what this might be, but I'm prepared to listen. That's our boy! Many Dragon Ball fans think the series totally wasted Raditz as a character, and honestly, they'd be right. Points for trying. But Dragon Ball GT may have solved that particular problem years ago, only for Dragon Ball Super to reap the benefit, and no one even noticed. Raditz's introduction was marked by the official start of Dragon Ball Z as he single-handedly shifted the entire franchise to the more hardcore, battle-centric tone. Spelling there. Unlike the previous era, Dragon Ball Z immediately jumped into world-ending threats, intergalactic dictators, time-traveling androids, and da-da-da-da-da. So basically just saying that Raditz was pretty much the thing that changed Dragon Ball forever, and Raditz was there to bring the franchise into a completely different era from what had come before, so he is very important for the story. So this paragraph is basically just saying what he did. So Goku died taking him down. While Goku got to be resurrected, Raditz stayed dead for the rest of the franchise. At least that's what fans have been led to believe. Oh, okay, I'm here for this. Raditz escaped from hell in Dragon Ball GT only to come back in Super. I'm a little bit confused here because GT's after Super. Alright, I want to hear this. In Dragon Ball GT Episode 43, written by Atsushi Maekawa, directed by Osamu Kasai, produced by Toei Animation, a portal from hell opens in the sky, and through it flies hordes of old Dragon Ball villains who were killed by the Z Fighters throughout every era of the series. Among the resurrected was none other than Nappa, a Saiyan warrior who fought alongside Vegeta, and funnily enough in the anime, he didn't have a speaking role, it was just loads of and all that stuff. That was really funny. There is a picture of Raditz there, so he does appear, he does figure. He's very far in the background, but he is there. A few episodes later, all the villains who escaped were sent back to hell, and fans got a very good view of who they all were as they stood in line to return to the correct corner of the afterlife.
And Raditz wasn't in the lineup.
Despite the fact that it was confirmed by King Kai and DBZ that Raditz went to hell when he died, the Saiyan villain wasn't seen flying through the portal back to Earth. Even Nappa made it back, and it seems odd that they wouldn't return together given how they were partners in life and died only about a year apart. Not only that, but Raditz wasn't among those who were forced to return to hell when the saga was over. This means that either Raditz had no interest in returning to Earth like his partner Nappa did, or he did make it back to Earth and he never left. Unlike every other villain who escaped damnation, Raditz could have traveled through the portal and then simply not kill a bunch of people or start blowing stuff up, only to be stopped by the immensely strong Z Fighters 2 seconds later. I mean, come on, his power level is even lower than Nappa's, of course he will. Nappa only lost about 10 seconds, so Raditz, oh dear. If Raditz got out of hell and then just laid low, he could still be alive, just waiting for the right time to make himself known, either continuing his life of villainy or coming back as a reformed hero. Based on the official Dragon Ball timeline, it can be assumed with some level of backing that Dragon Ball GT is canon to the newly established Dragon Ball Super timeline. It's a little bit of a complicated thing there. You see, it's mainly down to the fact that Akio Yoku, the second to Akira Toriyama, has basically said that all sorts of different series and different properties within Dragon Ball are their own timeline. Dragon Ball Heroes, that's in its own timeline. Dragon Ball Super, the anime version and the manga version, they're in their own timeline. Unless they're not, because Superhero is in both. And then of course there's Dragon Ball GT. That, according to Akio Yoku, is its own timeline and is basically a parallel dimension of Dragon Ball after it's splintered off from the end of Z. Canon to the newly established Dragon Ball Super timeline will happen after the events of Super take place. Well, that day is quickly approaching. In the current Super storylines, the manga is approaching the end of Z. i.e. the 10-year time jump, and GT takes place only 5 years after that. This means that Dragon Ball Super will likely continue its narrative after the events of GT. So in future storylines of Super that could potentially take place following GT, Raditz is free to be included in the Dragon Ball lineup, as it's more than plausible that he escaped from hell in Dragon Ball GT and is just waiting to come back in the hypothetical post-GT era of Dragon Ball Super. Oh, I see. Okay, alright. That makes more sense. I was a little bit confused about how you retroactively include Raditz, but that's not a bad theory, actually. Okay. Screenrant is very much known for making very inflammatory and hype-inducing content, but this time around, this whole idea of Raditz being resurrected and then not making it back could actually be viable. But let's be real here, folks. The fact is, though, is that Raditz was quickly forgotten right at the beginning. So a lot of the time, it would be safe to say, just being real here, I mean, I want Raditz to be alive, but I've got to be pragmatic. Raditz would have most likely gone back to hell with the rest of them and wouldn't have been included. So it might have been obvious that Raditz might have been taken down by somebody else, not one of the members of the Dragon Team proper, like Vegeta or anyone else important. Sorry. I mean, heck, even Krillin in his old age could have taken down Raditz, or maybe someone else entirely. Or maybe simply, when the portal to hell came back, Raditz was just too weak to be able to resist its pull, and he got pulled back on his own accord. I mean, Goku Black got sent back through a portal back to his own timeline, so it stands to reason that portals and dimensional gaps in space could pull back individuals if they don't have the chutzpah and the strength and the grit to be able to resist it. So that's most likely what happened to Raditz. But the fact that it's actually kind of plausible, that I find really, really funny. I actually thought I'd completely forgotten about GT doing that he wasn't in that lineup. So I actually really need to go back and confirm that. So one moment. Yeah, I just scanned through episode 45 of GT briefly, and yeah, Nappa's right there back in hell after Piccolo found a way to get everyone back via King Yama and all that stuff, but Raditz isn't with him. There's Major Metralitron, Officer Black, General Blue, Nappa, no Raditz. So yeah, either Raditz is somewhere else, or maybe he managed to escape, with his life and being able to be resurrected and actually survived somewhere. So going back to this original article in general, it kind of makes sense in a way, because Raditz is known for being a conniving little Sikh, resourceful, and if he was able to just lay low and use his anonymity to his advantage, he might actually still be on the planet. And realizing that he is completely outclassed by everybody, he might just either want to escape persecution from the rest of the Dragon Team and just carve out his own life, or maybe find a way of getting off into space and trying to find his way in the stars, because if he's not strong here, he could be strong somewhere else where power levels are increasingly lower and not have to live in the shame of being beaten by his brother again. I know for a fact that if Dragon Ball GT officially actually had Raditz in there, Kid Goku would have been in there and been the one to take him out in a revenge ploy by just having him being taken down in the full Nelson by Super Saiyan 4 Goku, or as Kid Goku to really rub salt into the wound and say, "Now, how does that feel?" This theory is not completely bull. It makes me think actually it's kind of plausible. It could easily be explained away, and it could be easily just something that, oh, Raditz wasn't important enough for it to really figure into the whole thing, but I'm feeling like it does have legs. And I really want it to be true. I mean, come on, it's our boy Raditz. We want it to be true. We want it to be true that Raditz may have had a chance at actually using his scheming ways to be able to thwart the likes of Piccolo, because everyone would have forgotten about him at that point. So not even Piccolo, who basically became the main representative of hell closing up and portals and stuff like that, because he just chose, yeah, I'm just gonna stay in hell. Still was one of the weirdest decisions of GT. If he remembered Raditz, he would have been saying, well, Raditz isn't here, someone's got to go and get him. But nobody did, apparently. He's not in the material from what I've seen. I mean, if I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments so we can actually put this theory to bed. If he's around, then Toyotaro and Toriyama could maybe go, oh yeah, Raditz is actually in there, so why don't we include him in some way for semantics and maybe kill him off again or something like that. Hopefully not. But this theory actually has some potential to be true, in that maybe, just maybe, he might be alive in like age 790 of the Dragon Ball timeline. Whether or not it'll actually be confirmed in Dragon Ball Super, I doubt it. I realistically doubt it. But I wanted it to be a reality. I really do. And I'm sure a lot of you out there want that to be a reality as well. So Let me know what you think about this theory. I mean, it's certainly one of the more solid theories that Screenrant's had, and it does give me hope that they do provide some content which is worth your time. I mean, of course, I'm biased, it's our boy Raditz here, but I don't know. This made me smile, and I hope that it made you smile too. But if you're watching this confused as to why I'm really standing on Raditz this much, just go and watch this full story video here about where it all began here.